Hunter from Ontario Montclair School District, and your position there is?
I am the program specialist that specializes in behavior.
Wonderful. We're so glad to have you join us. And then Jan Van Dyke is one of our program specialists out of WESELPA, who wears many hats, but she is a program specialist as well as a behavior specialist. You are a program specialist too.
Yeah.
And works with our clinical counseling team, and has a wealth of experience and knowledge, and actually ran ED programs for Santa Clarita County, South at one point. So I'm going to turn it over to you ladies, and they're going to be talking to us about anti-bullying this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you everybody for inviting us. We heard this was a topic that you wanted to have some information on. And this is just a real quick overview. It's not the meat and potatoes of bullying and prevention, but it does give just a background of bullying and kind of where we need to go and what we need to look at. So this is our mission statement. We include that in all of our presentations. So this is the educational code that focuses on bullying. All the schools have to have a student safety plan. They to address safety and violence. So all the schools, all the districts actually are required to do this by law. In addition, Ed Code also talks about bullying. In addition, the Ed Code also talks about bullying in the 48900 code, which is for disciplinary procedures. So if a student's getting suspended and it's for bullying, this is where it falls under. This is the specific part that it goes over.
Yeah, do you have a translator? Because I see one of my parents who does not speak English, so.
Yes, she's coming.
Oh,
Do you want me to wait for a second?
you want me to wait?
Just maybe a few minutes.
Sure, that's fine. No, that's totally fine. I'm sorry. Thanks, Alana.
Do we have handouts?
Oh, okay.
They should be there. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you.
Who are we waiting for?
The translator?
Oh,
She doesn't understand what I need to make sure she can understand the presentation.
Bullying has actually been in the legislation on some format since probably a little bit before 2003. That's kind of when we saw the change come into all the laws. However, it wasn't until July 1st of 2012 that the laws actually specifically started to talk about students with disabilities and how they're protected. So all school districts, Assembly Bill 9 is directly related to the Safety and Prevention Act, where we talked about the safety plan. It actually addresses that piece there, and it requires the school district to develop a policy and a complaint procedure to address bullying based on a student's disability. So this was really, really specific. Some of the other laws are kind of vague. It just says you need to address it, but this is very specific in that the policies have to be are delineated as well as a complaint procedure. So all the districts have these in place. In addition, effective as of July 1st, 2012, the Ed Code was this for when we talk about discipline, the 48900. That one was also made to clearly represent children that have disabilities, and for some reason they use the reasonable person standard for evaluating the impact of bullying includes an exceptional needs people. So if a student is bullying another student based on his disability, hers or his disability, this is where the disciplinary piece comes in. It's under 48900.
So we're going to look at some data for bullying. Bullying affects 5 million elementary and junior high students, highest amongst 6th through 6th graders, 6th through 8th graders. Best predictor of adult criminality. Bullying is underreported. Bullying takes on different forms among boys as compared to girls. I want to go back to the bullying being underreported. This is one of the things we're going to concentrate on, and getting the children to be more vocal and use their voice to report bullying incidents, because if it's not reported, there's nothing that the staff can do or administrators can do to address bullying in the school system. So you want to empower them to use their voice and say, you know, if this person's bothering me or this is happening to me, and most students will not do that, okay?
Just real quick to interject, when we talk about the difference between boys and girls, boys are definitely more aggressive. They're going to rely on the physical piece, you know, the punching, the tripping, that more aggressive approach when they're doing bullying. Girls tend to engage in what they call relational aggression, is where they attack another girl and they're looking at either ruining her reputation. It's socially damaging her status. So making sure none of her friends talk to her, making sure her reputation is bad, withholding friendships, you know, no, you can't talk to her, so of other people as well. So girls tend to take a different format. It's not as aggressive, but it still is hurtful and damaging.
So let's talk about some types of aggression. Or not.
So it is, says it's not plugged in, and it is, but I'm not sure why it's saying it's not plugged in. Oh, here it is. This is why it's not plugged in.
The power of the computer again.
It was that one.
Does everybody have a handout? Is everybody okay in the interest of time of me continuing on, or would you like to wait for the display? Is it okay? Okay. Okay, we have verbal aggression, physical aggression, and psychological aggression. I'm going to go to the verbal aggression because this happens a lot. It can happen in the classroom while under the supervision of the teacher. It can happen on the playground in passing, in the hallway. Physical aggression. That's the pushing, that's the pinching, that's the horse playing. Psychological aggression. If you do this, this will happen. These are the promises, and them telling them or threatening them psychologically, make them think that something's going to happen. Those are your threats. Behaviors intended to harm or disturb. So you have two different forms. You have your direct bullying and you have your indirect bullying. And I'll go through both of them in just a moment. You have carried out repeatedly and over time. So most people that are bullied, it's not one isolated incident. It will occur again with the same student. And that's why it's important that you talk to your students when they come home. If they are bothered or troubled by another student, you do want to know why. Is it something they're doing to them? I've had incidents where I've had kids that have friends, and I go back to the campus and they say, we're not friends anymore, and I will say, why not? Well, because she said something or he said something, and that's when I immediately jump in and interject. That's what you're looking for, and that's what you're looking at, and how to train staff to have those conversations. It's kind of being a mom and dad away from home. Because if you don't inquire, they will not give you that information. If you look at the grades that it impacts, grades 6 through 8, those are when they're peers, okay? And telling is not the thing to do. Okay, so you're the snitch when you tell. So you have to have those conversations ongoing so that you give them a free and a safe place to share out. Okay, and if you don't, then if I tell, I'm going to be tallying on this person. So what do? They go to school day after day, year after year, and they get bullied.
Can I ask a question? I have a nephew that's in school. He's in maybe the 3rd or 4th grade, and he tells the teacher, and the teacher, she doesn't like tattling. And so he's been kind of, I haven't followed up on the situation, but the kids do pick on him, and he tries to let the teacher know. And she tells him that she doesn't want to hear that it's tattling.
So you should go back to the teacher and tell her to define talent for you.
Right. Okay.
She should not be using that form of language. We encourage teachers to use academic language, and talent is not an academic language. So you should ask her to define talent for you, because it's keeping you informed. That could be preventing a fight. you have some students that are bullied for so long, and
Uh-huh.
I'll get there and they say, he's been bothering me for so long, they finally strike out as a response to the bullying. So he's trying to be
Because he's not an aggressive
proactive or
child.
preventive by saying, this is happening to me.
Right.
So have that conversation with the teacher and ask her, please don't discourage him from informing you of what's going on campus.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, imbalance of power, physical and psychological power. There's the two forms we were talking about before is direct bullying. That's your physical acts, your threats, intimidation, verbal abuse, and taunting. In dealing with the ED population, it goes on all the time. I came from a non-public school as a principal, and it was something that happened daily on the playground. It could be what you wore, what you hang around, what you say, if you're the most popular student and they like them but don't like you. I mean, a number of things can be the cause of the bullying. So educating the staff as well as the students on what bullying is, it's almost like when you go on a job and they start talking to you about sexual harassment and they tell you what the different forms are. These are the same conversations that need to occur in the classroom setting with the teachers and the students. This is what bullying is. If this is happening, this is a form of bullying in your classroom or at your school.
And this is also where cyberbullying falls in under. It's the direct bullying piece, not the indirect. It's the more posting. So all those legal pieces, all the educational code focuses on cyberbullying in this area as well.
Indirect bullying, making faces, obscene gestures, exclusion, rumors being more prevalent than most of the other things mentioned, and exclusion. Don't hang around that person. So for your middle school kid, if you look at the theorists and the way students develop, they want the friends. Their relationship with the peers is sometimes more important to them than the relationship with the adults or the mom or the dad. So when you start tampering with that, it's bullying. He's not going to be your friend, don't be your friend. The rumor, she's this, he's that, form of bullying.
I have a question. Can you explain a little bit of cyberbullying so I can...
Explain cyberbullying?
Just a little bit.
Cyberbullying is anything that happens over the internet, emails, derogatory emails, Facebook, what's that other page? MySpace, Twitter, even texting, that would be considered
Posting
cyberbullying.
something derogatory.
Yeah. And I went through a training just a couple weeks ago that they offered here, and there was a man who was presenting, and he works primarily in Marietta, but he was saying that they have, it's a Marietta website that actually, I don't want to say the name, but I don't want to mess up on the name, but I think it was like Princess Hose and something or other. And so whoever created the website was uploading pictures of different girls from a high school, and then you could put your comment on there about them. So stuff like that. I mean, here's a simple, some girl might have just walked by whoever it was at school. He or she took a picture, posted it on Facebook, and then wrote some comment.
It was on Dr. Phil, and there was another one. It was that same thing was on there. It's the same guy that does the Girls Gone Wild video.
Well, yeah.
It's that same guy that has that.
This was actually a student. So, but what they found out with this one, what they found out was, okay, I don't know where though. What they found out was they couldn't trace, because usually you can trace it back to the IP where it's stemming from, like the main address. So then that's how they identify who's uploaded that Facebook. They couldn't do it, so it was somebody who had a little bit more of a computer knowledge, computer background. So you can call Facebook. Any of the schools can call Facebook because they have admin rights. All the schools have admin rights to actually monitor Facebook. And that's how a lot of times some of these kids, who have like a threat, are making a threat to come and blow up the school, or I'm going to shoot. That's actually how some of these administrators find out, because they have viewing rights. So they couldn't find where this was coming from, so they called Facebook, and Facebook took it off. So he did eventually, whoever created the site, rebooted another site, but it was named "Who's Your Favorite Person," and it didn't allow for derogatory comments. So that still could be considered, kind of bullying in an odd way, because you're now picking out people who are much more appropriate than other people. So, but there's so much on cyberbullying, it's never ending. And, there's so much in the news. I'm sure you guys all heard of the girl who killed herself over, she actually hung herself over a mom pretending that she was actually a boy and was interested in her. And then, so that is a part of cyberbullying. That case in itself was a landmark for cyberbullying because it was able to really put some legal perspective on how far is too far, So,
one other thing I wanted to mention before you go on is that when I was teaching up at Vineyard, the newest thing is for them to have a fight and videotape the fight and then post the fight on Facebook. So that's how the schools are finding out that they're having the fights. Now, in one particular case, it was 2 girls, and one of the girls happened to be in my classroom, and the most quietest person ever. I would have never thought that she would be someone out there fighting. And when she came in the next day, and I said, "You have a fight yesterday?" And she goes, "No, no." I said, "You sure you didn't have a fight yesterday? Around the corner, right next to the blue house." She's like, "No." She still didn't want to tell me that she had this fight around the corner. This is the denial process that I'm not going to tell. I'm not going to tell her. And if you look at the video, they clearly started the fight with her. She was trying to walk away and could not prevent it from happening. So even the Facebook, and can you imagine if you had a fight and it's on Facebook and everyone's clicking onto this fight and they just keep posting back and forth, cyberspace, bullying, at its best.
At its best, that's for sure.
That sounds like really, really great evidence for parents who want to bring an action for damages there
I would agree.
against the teachers and the parents. That's real genius, posting it on Facebook for the opposing counsel.
And a lot of the kids, they don't care about posting it.
Well, and we're going to get into that into a little bit. It's the culture. It's like it's not just the child itself. What surrounds the child. So, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But let me talk to you about different types of bullying. There's power and control bullying. People who want the power, people who want the control, they'll go beyond their means to get that, to make somebody feel intimidated, uncomfortable. The training that I was in a couple weeks ago, this guy gave the perfect example. He went to Harvard, and one of his buddies, they weren't in the same class, but one of his buddies was trying to be some techie, but he wanted to always be at the top of his class. He always wanted to score the highest. So what he would do right before exams is he would walk by the guy that would probably be in competition for him to get the highest grade, and he'd pick a fight with him. And he'd get him so scared that the guy would go in to take the test and fail. So that's one type of bullying. It's that power and that control. I want to control my environment. I want the power. I want to be the best. So that is definitely one type of bullying. The other type of bullying is a social climber. I'm going to be the most popular. I'm going to make everybody, look less than I am. So that social climber too is definitely another type of bullying. Revenge bullying. This is huge. Somebody bullies me. I'm going to hold off for a second until they get situated.
Buenas noches.
You got reelected, so you're a public official.
I want to hold off until Mike is, okay, good. So the other one is revenge bullying. Somebody bullies me, I turn around and I go bully somebody else. That's very typical. You'll see that more so than not. The other one that you see very often is anger bullying. My dad beats me, or my mom, my mom is an alcoholic, things are really bad at home, I'm angry, I hate my life, so they end up going out to try and take their anger out on somebody else. Those two are probably the ones that you're gonna see the most. The power are usually for older, high school. The social climber could be for middle school, when you say, but I think the power and control, you see it more in older kids. Then the racial intolerance bullying, people that don't accept different races, people that don't accept different, I don't want to say gender.
Cultures, ways, or traditions.
Right.
Or way they,
This is where we see homosexuality or gay and lesbian, where they end up getting bullied because people are intolerant of their lifestyles. So that's what you're seeing in that aspect when we talk about that. And then Hollywood/entertainment bullying. This is huge. This is huge. We have so much in our entertainment on our TV every single night that kind of reinforces bullying. Whether, and even on videos, video games, different video games, it all kind of reinforces bullying. Remember we were talking about, it's just not the child, but it's what they're exposed to, what they see every day, and how big that is. And the entertainment piece is huge. WWF, those kind of, or cage fighting, those kinds of things. That really does not help bullying at all. It kind of supports the bullying. It teaches the kids to be a little bit more aggressive with each other. So when we look at entertainment and Hollywood bullying, we really got to analyze what are our kids viewing these days. And I know it's difficult, and the older they get, their videos are a little bit more, they're higher rated. So, you see more of that violence, you see more of that aggression. So it's really taking a look at what is going on as far as entertainment. Some of the effects on victims, this is really probably very obvious. You're looking at kids that are unhappy, depressed, they have very low self-esteem. Depending on the level of bullying, it could lead to suicide, it could lead to violence. So there are definitely different impacts for those that are victims. What we worry about in the schools is how does it impact their academics, and are they able to still access the curriculum and learn? Because once the bullying impacts their learning, because they're staying home, because they're too scared to go to school, that's when it's gone too far. So you could be dealing with depression, I said that earlier, psychosomatic, anxious, kids, you'll see a lot of times kids get school phobia. I'm not going to school, I'm not going to school. Or my stomach hurts. Does your stomach really hurt? Every day my stomach hurts. Or kids, little ones, you ever seen a kid who just cries on the way to school and you don't even know why? You're like, honey, it's not that bad. Well, it could be that bad for him. And that's the one thing that we've found when a lot of us talking earlier about it being underreported, kids don't communicate. They don't come out and say, hey, I'm being picked on, for several reasons. They're scared it's going to be worse. They're scared they're going to get, they're going to get hurt. They're scared they're going to get in trouble. So
The teachers aren't listening to them.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Well, I'll give you an example. My daughter goes to one of the local high schools, I won't say which one. And she became very isolated. My daughter's very bubbly and talkative like me. So that was a cue for me, something's going on in school. So I started talking to her, and she said to me, this girl that doesn't like her. I said, what do you mean she doesn't like you? Well, she would say, why are you looking at me? Kind of thing. I said, okay, well, look away. I just think for me, I'm at work, I can't go up there and protect her. I'm like, okay, look away, Amber, no big deal, no big deal. So then a couple of weeks go past, and she goes, Mom, she's still bothering me. I said, what is she saying to you now? She told me I think I'm better than her. Okay? I said, okay. I said, are you looking at her? Are you talking about her? No, I'm not looking at her, I'm not talking about her. I said, okay, so what's going on? She told me she finally told me the girl was a lesbian, and she likes girls. So when she said she you think you're better than me, first thing came to my mind, well, is she mad because you don't want to be her girlfriend, or what's going on? So I started talking to her more. So long story short, she threatened to beat my daughter up. And I had to go up to the school. I called first. I said, I have a situation, and I'm at work. I can't leave. I said, I'm concerned about my daughter. So the lady, the counselor tells me, well, we'll call both girls in, and we will look into the situation. I said, okay, thank you. So I get off the phone and go back to work, and no phone call from the school afterwards. Now, for a parent that's at work, and I'm telling you there's an issue with my child, you follow up. That's problem number one. You follow up. If I call you with a concern and I tell you I'm concerned about my daughter, my son, whatever the case may be, you follow up. You don't wait till the next day, because when I called you, it was urgent. Maybe not to you, but to me. Okay, so she never called me back. When I get home and I talk to my daughter, she told me she signed a contract. So I said, well, what was the contract for? She said the contract was for if we got in trouble again, we would be suspended. I said, who's going to be suspended? She said, me and her. I said, well, what did you do? Well, we just went in to talk. I said, okay. Needless to say, when I got off of work, I was at the Hardy Center. I go speed. It takes me long to get to the school. I said, I need to understand why she's on a contract. She says, well, it's part of our process. Okay, let's back up. I called you because I had a parent. I had a concern about my daughter. I didn't call you for you to have her sign a contract. Contract to me means two individuals are at fault, could have made better decisions, so we're going to sign a contract that it does not happen again. Contract is not a parent calling and saying, I have an issue, I'm concerned about my child. The end result is not a contract. So it's them not knowing how to respond to bullying. And for some of us, I'll tell you from having a education specialist credential and a general ed credential, it's not part of our methodology classes. They do not go over behavior. They do not go over bullying. They do not go over behavior management, for whoever mentioned it earlier. So we missed the boat. And if you don't get it from experience or training, you don't get it. So a lot of what I know is just from experience, but it does come from more training. More training needs to occur on what it looks like, how do you identify it, what do you do, what does your response need to be, and I'll tell you from a parent's perspective, it needs to be immediate for me. Not a contract, not the next day after I call the superintendent's office, you tell me, oh, you know what, I'm so sorry. But yesterday would have helped. Yesterday's phone call. Okay, so them responding back in that communication piece, huge, huge.
I like educational professionals like you. You sound like one of those people that understands why I file OCR complaints and DP complaints.
Well, I won't comment on that.
Smart. So not only are there effects on bullies, but there are also effects on victims. I mean, not only are there effects on victims, but there are effects on bullies. And of course, they're going to be more negative impact. The bullies will never stop bullying unless they're addressed face to face, unless somebody addresses it immediately. If it goes unaddressed, the bullying gets worse. Their behavior gets more. Their
Seclusion.
yeah, the way they deal with things gets more aggressive. They become more, oh, you know what? More vindictive. I don't think that dug deep enough. This next time, I'm going to make sure I dig deeper. So if they're not stopped, it will progressively get worse. 90%, I would say 90%. I'm going to tell you about 60% of bullies are convicted once by the time they're 24. And for those that continue to bully, 30 to 40% of them have at least 3 convictions by the time they're 24. So it's definitely associated with social maladjustment. They don't become productive citizens and they end up getting in trouble because that's how they know how to deal with things. So in essence, we need to deal with it not only with bullies, not only with victims, but also with the bystanders, and we'll get into that a little bit. So that's when we're saying it's really a community. It's everybody, the schools, the parents, the community around them, and coming up with a joint venture to address it. It has to be that way, otherwise it won't stop. Sorry.
So how is bullying supported? If you downplay or overlook a disrespectful behavior, you get a kid that'll say something about another kid, and if you overlook it and you don't respond to it, it will happen the very next day. If you're too busy in the back of the classroom and this is pulling your attention away and you don't address the behavior or someone being called out of their name, it will happen again. It could be something very simple of someone calling someone a punk every day. Sit down, punk. You say nothing. Guess what? You're telling that student it's okay. So tomorrow, you know what? Sit down, punk. And it's going to happen every day. That's bullying. Okay?
A lot of times you hold people go, oh, man up, man up. You know what? For that, calling somebody a punk might be so emotionally damaging to them. You don't know what's going on for them. You don't know where they're coming from.
And that gaining that power that she's talking about, that social power. If I can call you out of your name and you don't respond, that makes me a bigger person in their peers' eyes. So I'm going to do it every day. Every day I'm going to call you out your name. You know what? It's getting so good to me, I'm going to call you out your name too. You look like a good candidate too. So then they watch. The kids watch and they learn the behavior. So now you have 2 bullies instead of 1. Guess what? When he bullies that kid, he can get him to do whatever he wants to do, and they really respect him. I should do that too. Now you got 2 instead of 1. They just continue to multiply. You're supporting it. It has to be addressed. Failed to follow up when the instance reported. Me, that contract with my daughter, failure. Okay? Model disrespect. It can be staff to staff. It could be you sitting on the playground and you're supposed to be walking around the yard and watching the kids, but you're talking about the teacher. You're talking about another staff member that you don't like. She's doing it, why not? Staff to students, staff to parents, parents to staff. Those interactions, because we're models, there's certain things you do not do in front of children. If you approach me and I'm in a classroom setting when I was teaching, and it was something you're upset about your child, I would tell you, you know what, can we talk about it later, because right now I'm teaching. Or can I make an appointment for you? You have to say something to diffuse. Telling them, no, we can't talk about it is not good enough. But there is a time and place for that conversation to occur.
I giggle now because I can, but when this whole bus thing stopped, and all the parents had to figure out how am I going to get my kid to school, and I would drop my daughter off, I would see the first, I kid you not, for the first, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months, full blown out either yelling arguments between a staff member and a parent, between 2 parents, and I was like, oh my goodness, all we're trying to do is drop our kids off, hello. But it was, transportation is, it's a sensitive issue, because you know how many people are dropping off the kids at the same time you are. But it became, I even saw somebody drive up on the sidewalk because they didn't want to wait in line. I was like, let's be safe. But see, what ends up happening is that aggression takes over, and those decisions become skewed, and you don't make those right decisions, and that's what the bully is about. And if they continue, it feeds their behavior. We are reinforcing their behavior.
So, the famous thing of taking the recess, that's the answer for everything. I learned that. Okay? You call someone out the name, take the recess. You yell out while I'm teaching, you take the recess. You tap on the desk and disrupt the class, take the recess. Everything is take the recess. You never hear, well, I'm going to talk to you at lunchtime because we're going to debrief about that conversation you were having during the class time. Why did you call so-and-so this name? Why do you think it's okay? What have they done to you to prompt you to say it to that child? That's the training that needs to occur. Recess is not the option. For a lot of our kids that have disabilities, they need that energy out on the playground. Come back to me tired. That was my attitude as a teacher. Not take the recess, go outside. What do we know about our kids? They have low social skills. If I take your recess, when will you socialize? When you get back in my classroom. When I tell you not to. Okay? When it should be happening in a natural environment on the playground. We have to learn on different ways and consequences for our students aside from taking the recess. That's the traditional way of dealing with behaviors. Just traditional way of dealing with bullying. Instead of let's debrief. Let's have some social skill lessons. How about that? Let's adopt a social skill program that will address how to interact properly, appropriately. What is appropriate conversation? What does that look like? They don't have those skills.
It's it's making every one of those moments a teachable moment.
Yes.
You definitely want to teach them, and that's, all the research goes back to, you can't just tell them no, because they're still going to do it. So you got to teach them something else, you know. And being a behaviorist, that's what we look at. Why are they doing it? A lot of kids like the attention. If we're looking at it from a behavior perspective, the attention is reinforcing it. I love all the attention I get. So, you know what? You need to get it a little bit more appropriate rather than beating the snot out of somebody, right? So it's really exactly what Alana says, teaching them those skills. How to cope with anger, how to socialize, how to walk up to somebody and say, hey, you know what you told me really ticked me off.
And so I always talk to the teachers and the trainers, and I said, do you guys teach social skills? How often? Well, you know, we talk about it. Okay, when? Is there a set time? What time do you do it? I'm going to come and watch the lesson. They don't have that time slot. And if you know you have the behaviors, it requires that time slot, and that's what I'm talking about, that systematic. Because the next slide is talking about systematically teaching the entire culture. It doesn't matter if it's a person on the playground, the person in the classroom, the person in the office. Everybody should be equipped on how to address behavior. It should not be the resource specialist problem or the behaviorist problem. It's our problem. They're our kids. And until we embrace them as our kids and stop placing blame and somebody else's responsibility, we can never address it. Because we all have to come at it from the same angle. Think of it that way. We all need to be able to address bullying behavior. And that's really the PBS and the PBIS, which is what Ontario Montclair School District will be piloting, and some other districts are piloting, but you have to teach those social skills. That's what's missing profoundly. If I was to tell you guys anything else that I think you guys really need to have in terms of lessons, it's the social skill piece. It's huge amongst the behaviors with the students and them learning how to interact appropriately. And pushing, if I need to say hi to you, I don't need to push you in your back as you're walking in the line. I can simply just pat you on your back and say, hey, guy, how's it going? That's okay. I know if you move back, when I walk up to you, I'm in your personal space. Those cues, they're missing them. So they get hit. You got kids that just want somebody to be their friend. I just want you to be my friend. And they get picked on for being someone else's friend. I have parents that want to take the kid out of the school and put them in a more restrictive environment, not for that kid's behavior, but before the kids that are there bullying that student. That is sad to me. It's very sad. Sorry,
Yeah. And
I'm passionate people.
And that's it. You know, the next couple of slides really talk about the continuum of behavior interventions, but they really solely focus around teaching those skills. You have to have some skills. For the bully, you kind of, you know, counseling, they need to be a little bit more intensive. Counseling, is there other issues? What's going on? How is it academics? Does he need to be referred to an SST? Maybe he's not special ed. Maybe we need to go that route. Maybe we need to develop a behavior support plan, behavior intervention plan. So for the bully, there are a little bit more wider variety, you know, a wider level of interventions we can use. When we talk about victims, though, it's really empowering them, teaching them the skills. I'll go out to some of the schools in the area and do a stop, talk, and walk. And it's just teaching little ones. There's an elementary level and a middle school level. Just stop, walk, and talk. Stop. If the bully continues, I don't want you to do this. And turn around and you go find somebody to tell. So we practice, and those little kids are so cute because they're like, I can do this, you know. It's just having that simple skill when they get scared. This is what I do. Stop, walk, or stop, talk, and walk. And that's it. That's all they need. So, but it's coming up that Alana is right. When we look at bullying, and in order for it to have any impact in our schools across the nation, just not in our little West End SELPA over here, but across the nation, it has to be from community all the way down. It has to impact the teachers, the students, the community, the parents, everybody. We all need to be involved and reinforce it. Because, you know, I could work with a bully at school, and he can go home, and parents can do, you know, bullying him at home. That's not going to help us any. So it really needs to spill over to just not the school. So we talked about counseling, The victim, other than counseling, is really finding somebody at, at the school site where they can really identify, hey, you know what, if I'm not here, go and talk to so-and-so. Or, you know, if they have that face that they can identify with on a daily basis and they're scared, that's a person that you want them to look for, because that's where they're going to feel the safest. So it's really helping that child identify somebody that they can talk to, they can rely on. And believe it or not, there's also the bystander. We don't spend a lot of time on the bystander, but there are kids who will watch and do nothing. You know, some kids will egg it on, some kids, some kids will just stand there, and when it's all said and done, away they go. But it's empowering them too. It's teaching them, you know what, you have a voice. You need to stand up for somebody and go tell somebody. If they're not able to do it, you need to do it. So it's really empowering those bystanders as well, because they're just as much of a fault as the bully is if they don't do anything.
I have an extended family, and they're typical, but they do protect the special needs kids. I mean, they've gotten to the point where they go straight to the principal, and they know that, you know, they're going to be telling them what's going on, and that's really good to empower the typical kids to stand up to the ones that may not have a voice to say what's going on.
I agree completely.
You know, we're a separate culture though. When I taught general ed, we used to walk past the special ed classroom and kids in the hallway. I never knew not a kid in that class. You hear me? Couldn't tell your name. Because I was general ed, we had other things to concentrate on. Test scores, grades, clothing. I mean, we have different views, okay? When I pushed off into special ed, I felt like, I'm like, why are they treating my kids like that? Why are we going on the science trip? Why are we not invited to this activity? Why are they not part of in the club? They were excluded from a lot of different things because one, maybe they can't do it, maybe they don't want to do it. Well, you never asked us. You never said, Anna, do you want your kids to be included in this stuff? So I got real tricky about my stuff. And I started giving plays. We did Cinderella, you know, we did different plays and productions. And in order for you to be in the production, you had to come and do your audition for me. And guess who you were on stage with? My special ed babies. So I merged them together. So in the following year, they knew the kids by name. Hey, Autumn. And they were able to bridge those relationships. But you have to be crafty in that way because you can't force it. It has to be done in a natural setting where they just blend. It can't be, oh, now you're in this room. If they're interested in the same thing, I can say, okay, we're going to couple you up. But until we can see it and understand it and we acknowledge it, they will never learn it because we're the models. So just like I was one of them, passed them in the hallway. I don't know who's in that class. Never said hi, nothing. So now when I go into classes, I don't care who the kid is. How you doing? Because I know how I felt when it was my students.
I have, you know, and I think schools have changed a little bit more than
They
that
have.
with that. The little bad part though is we're the special ed classes. Usually they're all the way at the very end. And you're like, why are they back there? So, you know, it's even that. But I have a kid, a student that I've had on my caseload for probably about 6 years since I've been, 6 or 7 years since I started here. And started in elementary and he's now at the high school. And so his parents have always asked us to do disability awareness training with the class. Every time he goes into a class, first day of school, mom has, you know, can you just go in there and just do some disability awareness training with the kids so they just know. So we do. We have since he's been in 3rd grade. And I think I want to say his 8th grade when he transferred over to another school in 6th grade. We made sure that he was with some of the same kids that he was in 5th grade. So they were with him in 6th and 7th and 8th. And I remember when I was over last year, right before he graduated, I was at the middle school, and it was the first day of school, and I come walking in, and one of the little girls goes, can I present with you? Can I present with you? Because she knew why I was there, because she's seen all my presentations, because she's been, they kind of clumped him with the same kind of kids. But it was cute, because later on, I was standing in the hallway, and one kid came out and goes, oh, did you see that kid in our class? And she was 2.5 seconds. You know what? That's my friend Paul. And he's a great kid. And, you know, and she just lit into him. And I was like, you know, and now he's at the high school, and he's fine. I mean, they all just kind of rally around him. And I think disability awareness training is really important when a student happens to be fully included or fully mainstream, is making those kids, I'm not pointing them out, you know, but I'm just telling you, we all learn differently. So when you give those kids just that knowledge, it really doesn't they don't feel like they have to treat him any different. No, he just learns differently.
I mean, my kids over there, they're like, I'm not walking down that hallway, they're gonna know I came out that classroom. I said, you wanna go out the front of the school? Sure. Because they don't wanna be bullied and they don't wanna be teased. So I have to walk them out the front so that I want them to wanna do it. You know, and so now they're mainstream and they're just as happy as they wanna be. But you have to create that awareness and empower them. I'm sorry, Edith.
I just wanted to share that my son, when he was in 7th and 8th grade, actually gave a little presentation in one of his classes where he was having the hardest time. And it was a kid who was a bully who pushed him to do it and say, Eric, we get frustrated because we don't understand you.